Hello, how's it going? Oh, it's been such a chaotic year, actually. Or 2 years, even, to some degree. So yeah, I kind of have to look at it from different perspectives, really, because, like, that's kind of like the whole point over why there's so much chaos in the world. And it's just like, once I kind of finally analyze what is really happening when it comes to ideas in general, and once I kind of like identify that there's some kind of like underlying line where like mental health is such a funny topic in particular, because we kind of have to look at it from the aspect of like what exactly does it mean to have good mental health, basically, because it can mean from different people, different groups, different everything, basically. I was like, that's kind of like the thing, really, because I kind of have this kind of once I kind of like, one has to identify the condition that you are as an individual, basically, you kind of start understanding what the logic behind you truly means in some sense, basically, because there is some the cases where there's more misidentification of your social condition makes it more likely for you to behave in a particular manner, and that in itself sometimes does not benefit the group that you actually belong to, due to the fact that, specifically speaking, it collides ideologically in some shape or form to those ideas, really. It's like, that's kind of like the thing, really, when it comes to like thinking patterns in particular, basically. That, yeah, it's like, I mean, before I start the stream, let me be over here, basically. Before I begin the stream, I kind of like start identifying really that the main problem of like this kind of ideology that is like everyone belongs everywhere and they have the freedom to go everywhere that they please. It's like the aspect that kind of like, once you actually realize this fact, that is like, just because somebody can do something, they will do it. Once you kind of understand that underlying truth that a lot of people don't really realize until it's acted upon them, basically, it's that, specifically speaking, really, like in the world of let's everybody holds hands together and I love everybody, and if I love everybody, we can have a happy place and a happy time, we undeniably run into problems, because we're talking into 2 million, like into billions of people at this point, basically. It's like, and the ideology of, oh, everybody's the same and everybody behaves exactly the same, so therefore you can have to be happy and acceptful that everybody is the same, is like, I think undeniably that is the illness that we're kind of like dealing with, basically, because we're not the same. Specifically, nobody is exactly the same. It's like, there's gonna be some dudes that are gonna be into flat-chested Asian girls, and I'm over here being like, hey, I just like big mommy milkers to some degree, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of the thing, really. Like, undeniably speaking, we're just not the same in any shape or form, basically. And it's like, the thing is like, the everybody is the same spell that gets thrown onto people, basically. It's like, it either shows true ignorance over how the world works, or incredibly malicious behaviors, basically. It's like, once you're gonna look at it from that perspective, really, it's just like, yeah, no, if you are to be socially responsible, really, because it's like, yeah, you can be like, oh yeah, socialization is the key to effective effective actions to fix society as a whole, it's like, yeah, that statement is true, 100%. However, you kind of have to understand that what that means is that 2 billions of people are going to have different values depending on which ideas bring them the most mental health to begin with. And it's kind of like, it kind of struck me for a little bit that it's like, yeah, maybe the algorithms made us homogenous and everybody's into anime and all that is like sweet honey, that because like everybody's into anime and manga and we're all otaku. And it's like, once I actually opened my eyes and I kind of realized that it's like, no, even in the gaming sphere, there's people who are actively looking to get rid of you. Once you kind of realize that to some degree, you kind of like sit down thinking to yourself, yeah, no, like actually, if we're completely honest with you, we do have our enemies in some level, basically. We inherently have enemies. Really. And that's kind of like the thing that kind of like, I don't think a lot of people realize, even within our communities, because like we're shut-ins, we're introverted, we don't deal with people outside. And because we don't deal with people outside, the world in the inside is really something that is a part of us, basically. And it's like, that's kind of like the thing when it comes to like the Game of Thrones of things, basically. Like once I actually sit down to think about it, it's like, yeah, there was a Game of Thrones so big, even from the inside, that decided that it was not a right thing to do, that it ultimately created like this kind of like inner conflict between the nerdy otaku side of people, basically. And it's like, that's kind of like the thing, because like even within nerds themselves, there's gonna be nerds who are gonna be against the otaku community as a default, basically. Like we kind of have to be a little bit more aware of what this truly means to us, basically, because like we kind of have to think as to what exactly are we dealing with Ryajus themselves, because like Ryajus are the kind of people that are like actively looking to get us to behave in a particular way away from what our roots are truly are for the otaku community, basically. But also we kind of have to look at the inside of the otaku community, and we kind of have to think to ourselves, are we taking actions to implode the otaku community because we're not taking the right action to get our community stronger and to get a stronger chain of command and a stronger empire where we can actually have a safer environment? And it's like, when we actually look at it from some perspective, like the otaku community was so busy with their Game of Thrones that it affected the otaku community in itself by having this inner conflict, basically. And it's like, when you actually look at it, we kind of have to look at it from the perspective that it's like, okay, what is the hub of everything, really? If we're actually rationally speaking, what is the hub of everything? What is the origin of everything? What does it truly mean to be part of something? And it's like, you kind of have to look at it from the perspective that it's like, the Japanese are not reproducing enough. The Chinese are producing anime content. Would the Chinese otaku community want to overpower a Japanese movement and have its strings tightly attached to that, so that they can Japanify the core aspects and the core thoughts of what it truly means to be an otaku? Yes. Is the West actively doing things to change things in a favorable way for the West? Absolutely, that is also true. So why does that mean? What does that mean? And it means that as people, we are kind of like in a inner circle where we're battling our Game of Thrones, and they're seeing the Game of Thrones as an excuse to get rid of the otaku community itself. And because they're using that Game of Thrones that we have at the moment as an advantage to get rid of us completely, you're gonna have to look at it from the perspective that it's just like, yeah, no, it's like even our own countries are being assholes to our community because there's people in power who are against us, basically. And why did this movements take place? Why did everything take place? Why did everything crumble? Why did everything go to south? Why is everything going in a very destructive way? It's because of that kind of depersonalization of what it truly means to be an otaku, basically. And it's like, that's kind of like the thing that really happens when with a lot of like individuals who are in the outside, who have seen an advantage in the weakness within us, and they, ultimately speaking, made us weaker as a consequence, basically. So we're gonna have to look at it from the perspective that is like, a mental health specialist, really, is not necessarily going to be in favor to your ideas and your likes specifically. A mental health specialist isn't always going to be in favor of your freedom to begin with. And it kind of becomes paramount to have the right mental specialist for the right job, for the right psychology, for the right healing movements to get a stabilized psychic transference onto the right person, basically. And it's like, if we look at it objectively as to what is the biggest problem that we're facing at the moment, is that certain groups have decided to call the otaku community for them to not get too strong specifically, because there was actions taken, because that is true, there was actions taken to call the otaku community and to stop being otaku ourselves, basically. Because that is kind of like the truth when it comes to like the reality of the situation that we're living in, that we were having such a growth sprout, because during the COVID era, the Chinese were making the Hoyoverse took over within their influence so hard, and they pandered so much to something that is unifyingly global, that made them want to press on that side of the field, basically. And it might not be false that they're also otaku, but at the same time, we kind of have to look at it objectively. Where does the Chinese stand in the otaku hierarchy, basically? And do they fear other beings of the otaku community for them to kick them off entirely, basically? Do they make a movement in particular to destabilize a region of the otaku community? Do they go as far to do that and hold things in the worst way possible for a self-destructive manner? It's like, when we actually look at it from that perspective, really, it's like we kind of have to be a little bit aware of what it truly means to be an otaku at this point, because like, from what it looks like, there were beings who are powerful enough to manipulate the board hardcore and get Mexican otakus out of the playing field altogether. Or Latin American otakus to begin with, basically. As like, even our own countries have done that to some degree, probably. Our own countries even do that because they don't want the otaku community to be a force to be reckoned with. They don't. They actually don't. They just think that it's like, oh no, yeah, they're nerds, that they're incels, they're introverted, they don't give a fuck about anything. So you know what? Let's sabotage the otaku community so that they are not as strong as they were during the 2020 era, basically. I was like, we kind of have to look at it from that perspective as well. That it's just like, yeah, that's the main issue over like what it truly means to be a mental health specialist in the modern era, because like the mental health specialist circle has made it difficult for to have a common agreement on what is the best thing to do. And when I actually start analyzing the movement itself, when I actually think about the objective position where all the Latin American otakus are sitting at, basically, I kind of have to look at it objectively and think, was there some injustice, basically, that made us be in a worse state by getting one side a little bit more of to get a community aggro, because the American circle wants to have aggro against the Mexican community? And it's like, when I actually look at it from that perspective, from the hatred that some Americans have against Mexicans, and it's like, are American otakus willing to execute Mexican otakus so that they don't so that the Americans get their piece of the cake and they get more support out of them? When I look at it from that perspective on the Game of Thrones in the layers that we're sitting at, does that make sense? Does it make sense that it's also affecting the British territory as well? Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Doesn't make sense that some otakus were expertly manipulated to get the otaku community go up in flames as well? Absolutely, yeah. So that's kind of the thing that we're looking at the moment, really. And it's like, when you look at it from that perspective, really, we are finding the otaku community divided once again, with the English-speaking side having more pieces of the cake to behave in a particular way. A faction of the otaku community that was Cantonese, that saw Mexicans as a sacrifice that they're willing to make, and objectively looking at every aspect of the world as to what it truly means to have this commentary that we're having at, which is, okay, you're a clown because you did not submit to the Cantonese ruling of the otaku community. And it's kind of like, or you did not submit to other entities and you're a clown in that side because you did not submit to something outside of the otaku community. And it's kind of like, yeah, once you actually look at the global scale of the strings being played into the hearts and minds of people, I kind of sit down and think to myself, we had plenty of power. We have plenty of power, and our own nations have gaslit our own people to think that they're in the wrong once again, so that we don't have a community as strong as they used to have basically before. And why that is, because like, a lot of the otaku community is not in the best mental state, actually. That is kind of like the thing when it comes to the establishment over what we're actually dealing with, really. Like, if we're objectively speaking in the most rational aspect possible, the idea of welcoming everybody from the otaku community in one circle is not as effective as it sounds, because we're actually dealing with people who have emotional attachments to their roots along with the otaku community, and those small roots play a determining factor as to what it makes or breaks a community and a society, basically. And it's like, it makes tactical sense to some degree sometimes to be a little bit aware of that, of those people who stop us from being together as well. Because if we actually look at it from that objective standpoint, well, yeah, that's kind of the thing, isn't it? It's like, it's a tactical movement to get everybody against each other, basically. If we actually look at it from that perspective, from our own nations, even sometimes. So yeah, in some degree, I kind of have to sit down and think about it from the most welcoming state, and it's like the most welcoming state of a mental perspective is to have some level of self-respect to the circles that we belong to. And it kind of like means also to have like a regional standpoint of what it means to be an otaku, so we can actually branch out and have our own roots be more strong and reinforced, rather than just being a stick that will break whenever there's enough pressure from other entities, basically. And it's kind of like the thing, really, that I kind of observed, and what made me like a little bit like, this is what I saw. Let me be objective for like 10 seconds, because this is what I saw back in the 2016s, in the Trump election, basically. I'm not going to talk too deep about that. And what I saw specifically was a Japan that had a social bond with Donald Trump, but that also had some emotional attachment to Donald Trump, but also a little bit of playful hatred against Donald Trump. And when I saw that specifically, that's when hell broke loose, specifically. Because even although that the video itself claims to be against him, the facts were there. The Japanese movement wanted to get in bed with Donald Trump because there was emotional attachment enough to have a high production in his image, even if it was to criticize him a little bit. But the criticism wasn't strong or weak. It was just kind of like a slap in the wrist criticized to be like, hey, Donald Trump, we're here. Behave in a particular way. I was like, once I actually look at it from that perspective, it was when I realized that shit was going to go down against the otaku Mexicans, and how strategically the Cantonese are going to do that, to play that in their advantage to destabilize the Mexican otaku community, and along with it, the American otaku community itself. So in short, what we're actually looking at, basically, if we observe how the internet shifted and changed after 2016, we have to be a little, I have to be objective and say this to you, to your face specifically, that the internet shifted for the Mexican side starting 2016 for logical measures. It was objectively a declaration that there is an intent to destabilize the community. And the Cantonese are going to take advantage of that and say, hey, Donald Trump, we can actually destabilize the people that you don't like. We can destabilize the people that you don't like. You can get revenge we get more of the otaku community stake, and yeah, you get rid of the Mexicans, and everybody hates Mexicans, and and the Mexicans become the worst looking people on earth, as you wish them to look like, basically. And it's like, when I actually think about it from that perspective, really, from when I look at it from the Game of Thrones aspect of the otaku community, really, because I'm an observant person, and I see what is happening when it comes to like the Japanese flirting with Trump's America, and the Japanese flirting with the Chinese side, and how the Cantonese have executed Mexicans publicly. We can see an alliance that goes against the Latin American side of the otaku community, and we can actually witness what is truly happening by what is truly happening, basically. That is like, we have this identifiable breakthrough over what a specific movement wanted to happen, basically. The things that have happened as a consequence, the people that have stopped being on the board as a consequence. And when I actually objectively look at it from that perspective, I kind of have to sit down, reanalyze my psychology for like 20 minutes, and think to myself, Mexicans have an otaku roots, have deep otaku roots within them. And we haven't done enough for them to remain as they are. So much so that they're favoring the Cantonese and the Americans to demonize us and make us look like the worst people on earth as a consequence. It's like, when I look at it from that perspective, when I look at it from the perspective where the otaku community becomes even more fragmented as a consequence, it even hurts the Japanese side, because it's not in favor of exactly the expansion of the culture itself to begin with. So, to some degree, it's just the inevitable result that I kind of have to say is that if there are Mexicans out there that understand what I'm actually saying, we kind of have to step our game up and actually be part of the otaku community. Otherwise, the Cantonese and the Americans are gonna see us as as fucking worms that are worthless, and that they are not worth their time, basically. So, in short, basically, I kind of have to be a little bit objective. I have to be like a little bit like, yeah, no, like, that truly is the thing that is happening. Really. Because, like, the movement was important enough to get aggro on the Mexican side, that it was kind of necessary to take action on the Mexican territory to some degree, basically. And yeah, the Americans are going to justify a lot of things, and they're going to be like, hey, you know what? Mexico really has done a lot of terrible things to us. So yeah, they need to step it up, and you need to submit everything, and you have no opportunity for us to take claim into any kind of saying, because, like, fuck you in particular. But we're also going to still ship influence from us to you, because we're still influencing you to begin with to be more like us. And it's kind of like, when I look at it from that perspective, really, I kind of like sit down thinking to myself, like, yeah, Mexicans got fucked. They never front, basically, because, like, the Mexican otaku community has gone downhill since 2016. Actually, if I'm objectively speaking, it has gone downhill after 2016. And when I look at it at the timeline and the objectives of what everything has happened, I kind of have to sit down and be like, hey, yeah, that totally makes sense. It seems that Mexicans are like in a self-destructive loop because there's not enough support for what we grew up with during those times, basically. So, like, if I look at it from that perspective, I kind of have to be like, yeah, like, what the fuck do I make out of like a specific mentality, really? That is like, yeah, I mean, objectively speaking, we're getting fucked. I mean, the otaku community on the Mexican side, it's getting fucked. It's getting objectively fucked because the Japanese side does not think that we're valuable enough. Why don't they think that we're not valuable enough? Because we're not doing anything in order for us to even be part of the community to begin with. It's like, yeah, that's kind of like the main thing. I think that even our own country shuns us from even being from part of the community. And the only reasons why they have us is because they think that we're worms. We're worms that are being used to contaminate the Japanese side so that the Japanese side gets more demoralized and their mentality becomes the winning mentality that can overrun the country and destroy the country by what it has been made of the last 20 to 30 years, basically. And it's like when I actually have to look at it from that perspective, it's like our own countries fuck our own communities. Our own countries are actively fucking our own communities because they do not agree with what we're saying specifically. And when I look at it from that perspective, it's just like, I think we kind of understand what is truly happening in that side because, like, let's be honest, it's kind of fucked up, actually. It really is kind of fucked up in some sense. So yeah, like I have to look at it from that perspective. I have to look at the Game of Thrones and the emotional health that some like influencers have taken, because I have scanned their emotional health and their behavior patterns, because that's what their behavior patterns are kind of like telling me to in some shape or form of the reactions of the events that have taken place in the last 4 years. And the only conclusion that I can take out of everything is that the Mexican community was getting fucked up and was getting gaslit, was getting hurt from every side by getting as divided as possible, so that they kind of like conceded to the exterior world and conceded that Mexicans were terrible to begin with, because that's the ideology that a prime mover was speaking 24/7 about us, so much that it was infecting even our own people and making us even more self-destructive against ourselves to validate the worldview of that person in particular. So to some degree, that's kind of like the thing when we actually look at it from that perspective, that is like, yeah, like the prime movers were in place to blame Mexicans to be the culprits of all the evils in the world, basically. When in reality, there's prime movers in every country, if we're absolutely honest, specifically. Those prime movers are saying something that is very true. Those prime movers are saying one thing in particular: we don't want the otaku community to continue growing. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying, specifically. Why? Payment processors, like thinking patterns of shame, psychological warfare, gaslighting, experimentation with human patterns, demoralization with like artificial intelligence, all these things happened for one reason only. Is because they thought that the otaku community needed to be executed. That is the reality. There are so many other countries in the world who want the otaku community executed because they don't see them worth it in their worldview. That is a reality. That is a reality. So yeah, at this point, a lot of like prime movers, we have to be a little bit objective over what happens next specifically. Because now that the otaku community is large enough worldwide, we have to look at the prime movers of our own countries. We have to look what they're aligned to. And if they're actively looking to destroy the community as a consequence as well. Because if they are, their own communities are going to gaslit the communities who are in favor of us. And they're going to say, well, the otaku community is a very self-destructive thing. Therefore, you are to not mingle with that community because it's highly destructive specifically. And it's like, when I actually look at it from that perspective, when I actually start analyzing what it really means to have those things, and the beings who are being put into place into a self-destructive cycles, we kind of have to be a little bit more objective and be like, yeah, no, yeah, like most likely that's the prime movement that happened in favor of a specific worldview, and until somebody took deep enough vengeance, it was until then that they let the otaku community go back online as well. So it's like, I kind of have to look at it from that perspective of the prime movers in particular and say like, hey, yeah, like, I think objectively speaking, the Mexican community needs to step it up, because I actually have to look at it as well, because there were some members of the otaku community that got sacked as well, from what I'm observing as well. And the personal influence that they held along with them as well. So that's kind of the thing, really. That's kind of the thing. What it truly means to be Mexican and otaku, it means plenty of things at the moment. It means plenty of movements. It means justifying actions out of people outside of the community. It means threats to the wrong and right people. And those threats themselves are undermining our communities themselves to begin with, basically. So yeah, I have to be honest with you. And it's like, yeah, specifically, the people who are put in front sometimes, they're not most of the time trying to get the best intention of us. And they're also sometimes being manipulated by the puppeteers behind them, have shown their hand in particular. Because I have to look at Hoyoverse objectively. And I have to look at America objectively. And be like, yeah, well, there are some things that do not make quite a lot of sense until you kind of like see what affects who affected what in what particular timeline to get the right person on the right track, on the right direction, on which time specifically. I was like, yeah, when you see the time the timeline of everything that has happened, we end up with these situations specifically where a lot of communities that belonged to our community are being sacked, used, or even gaslit into thinking that they're a problem when they're not, specifically. It's just another branch of culture to begin with. So, on that note, I'm gonna begin the game, basically. It's kind of weird, but yeah, it's kind of weird, but yeah, specifically. Okay, sure. Okay, yeah, sure. So basically what I'm trying to say is like, dude, if Mexicans actually enjoy anime, we kind of have to say that we belong to this community specifically. Like, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Oh, wait, it's not this one. Okay, wait. Okay. Was it this? Okay, let's see. Yeah, it's this one. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's like specifically when I try to like tie everything together, what actions have taken place, who's made responsible of what actions, and who they are putting in front to justify certain things. We kind of have to look at it objectively and think that the otaku community was weak enough to let too many to have our supply chain poisoned. Basically, our supply chain got poisoned from our own countries in the highest level of the state to some degree, basically from the states that we live in as well. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Specifically, we're gonna have to be a little bit more careful moving on in order for us to get the prime movements on the right time, basically. Because that's a reality of things, if we're completely honest. Actually, that's kind of like what is happening, that what has happened, and what is actively happening to get things on the worst place, basically. And it's like, how many otakus were gaslit into splitting into other communities? And it's like, yeah, plenty. I think plenty of people got gaslit into other communities sometimes. And we have to look at the timeline that everything happened specifically. And it's like, yeah, if you were an introvert locked up in your room, the likelihood that you like anime increases specifically. So that's kind of the thing, really. Like, that's kind of the thing specifically. I believe specifically. So yeah, once I kind of analyze where the money is coming from which community specifically, kind of have to assume that it's just like, yeah, well, a lot of those communities have some intense Mexican hatred against them. Why? Because, like, I don't know, there's personal relationships that made them hate them to begin with. And it's kind of like the thing when it comes to why I kind of like round everything up, and I have to be like, dude, Mexicans have to step up their game so that so that the other communities don't justify any movement against us in an act of self-destruction, basically. Because that's kind of what has happened specifically. That's literally what has happened, and a lot of our origins, like communities of origin, they're playing our strengths as well. Like specifically, they're playing our strengths in the most like objective manner, basically. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. That's kind of what I saw from 2016 to 2021, 2022, and now 2025 basically, because that's kind of has been the trend of of what that community has done and what martyrs they selected to get their movement going specifically. So yeah, that's kind of like the thing as well, because objectively the otaku community is as peaceful as it can get, except that you piss off the right person. Basically, if you piss off the right person, the otaku community is gonna come after you, basically. But it's inevitable because, like, even within our own communities, we have Game of Thrones. Let's be honest. So, yeah, that's kind of the thing specifically. Like, that's kind of the thing that kind of like strikes me a little bit. And yeah, right now there's like news of like, I think right now there's like a VTuber in the UK who got arrested for her own artwork, and it was like, dude, that's kind of weird actually. And it's kind of like, that's kind of exactly what I mean specifically, where our own host nations are actively oppressing our own communities because they think that they're influential enough to destroy the host culture that they belong to some degree, basically. It's like, yeah, that's kind of like the problem, I think. I think that that's kind of like the main problem that we're facing as a community, basically. It's like, to some degree, you know what it is? It's like, does globalization make sense? To some degree. Does DEI make sense? To some degree. But you kind of have to understand the psychology behind it. Because if the psychology behind it determines the mental health of the individual and what they're attached to so deeply that you can consider them an otaku to begin with, then you're speaking to some degree that is the issue at hand and not, I don't know, people who are just looking to destroy our community actively, basically. Because yeah, that's kind of like the thing, how deep some prime movements do to justify terrible things happen to some of our communities, basically. And yeah, that's kind of like the thing. Once I actually look at it, it's just like, yeah, that's kind of the thing. Okay, skills. Lost in thought. Okay, let me put the sound over here. But yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, that's what I'm trying to say specifically. Okay, let me raise the volume over here, basically. So yeah, that's kind of like the thing when it comes to that type of aspect. It's just like, no matter what it is, it's like, I'm probably gonna be seen like a terrible person to a lot of people still. But it's like, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, if you're not part of the otaku community, I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. Like, I kind of had to put my foot down on that side, basically, because like, I try to take a psychological, like a humanitarian psychological aspect of the individual, and it backfired with so much gaslighting, so much self-destruction, so much self-hatred, and so much breaking through, basically. That makes me think that it's just like, yeah, do you know what? Fuck this, actually. Like, too many people are actively trying to destroy the community. Always, all the time, specifically. Okay, lost in thought. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, cool. What is your killer prediction? It's gonna be complicated, actually. Like, so Gonta doesn't make sense, to be honest with you. It really doesn't make sense. But we kind of have to look at it objectively, and it's like, who's the only one that has showed up in the pictures? And it's the ultimate detective is the only one that has shown up in the pictures as well. It's like, I'm kind of leaning towards an emotional, like, betrayal of the ultimate detective, because he's the only one who was aware of the cameras to begin with. And he, but yeah, that's kind of the thing, isn't it? Like, he did go somewhere else while Kaede waited on inside of the classroom. So the chances of him being the culprit is not zero, basically. So who do I think it's gonna be, basically? Ryoma is also, I mean, no, Ryoma was there. If I remember correctly, the only one that kind of brings back to me is probably the like the ultimate detective. Like the only person that knew that the cameras were established was him and Kaede. He's the only one who is inside of the photos along with the dead body. He's the one who abandoned the room to see what was going on. So yeah, I'm leaning towards that, possibly. Like, he probably is him, but that's gonna be my prediction. I'm not gonna be entirely, like, I'm gonna be surprised most likely, but let's see what is happening. Right. Right. Right.
進め方なんて気にする必要ないわ。これは普通の裁判とは違うんだから。
Right.
容疑者も弁護士も検事も裁判員も務めるのは全て私たち自身。それなら私たちのやり方で進めるしかないわ。
だったら僕から議題を提供しようか。
急にしゃしゃり出てくるんじゃねえ、このうんこ製造機が。
まあまずは話を聞いてみようよ。
主は言いました。みんなの話を聞くことが大事だと。
Right.
うちはちゃんと話を聞ける子じゃぞ。血が出るほど耳掃除してきたからな。
じゃあ喋らせてもらおうかな。僕はずっと疑問に思ってるんだけどさ、犯人は初回得点で外に出られたにもかかわらず、なぜそれをしなかったんだろうね。
私気になります。
よっぽど学級裁判がしたかったんだろうな。
だったら犯人はモノクマだな。誰よりも学級裁判を従ってたからな。やったー、これで決まりだぜ。
Okay.
俺様天才。
Mew, shut the fuck up. Okay, cool.
でもよ、モノクマが犯人なんてありえんのか？
もちろんありえないよ。僕はお前らに直接手を出したりしないもん。
あなた自身はそうだとしても、あなたを操ってる誰かは別だよね。モノクマを操ってる首謀者なら天海君を殺すことができたはずだよね。
首謀者？何それ？
おいら、首謀者なんて知らないな。
聞いたこともないわね。
とぼけたってダメだよ。あなたたちを操っている首謀者って誰なの？
首謀者か。この中にいる可能性が高いって話だったが。
俺はみんなと同じ意見でキーボーだと思うよ。
I don't know if Ryoma had left the room as well. That's kind of the thing. Like, Ryoma could have left the room, too.
皆さんも同じ意見なんですか？
絶対に突き止めてみせるからね。
Let me recall, I don't think Ryoma left the room. He was inside of the game room, but did he actually leave the room? I don't know, actually. I don't remember.
でも首謀者を突き止める前に、まずは犯人を突き止めないとね。
だったらとりあえず事件の状況を整理するところから始めない？
Right.
天海くんが死んだ状況を振り返って、まずは何が問題かをはっきりさせてみようよ。
Yeah, Shuichi to me is suspicious.
超高校級の探偵の犀原くんが言うなら間違いないよ。
それじゃ始めましょうか。改めて事件を振り返ってみましょう。
Right. Alright, let's do this. We can find the mastermind if we work together. When this class trial is over, we'll know exactly who the mastermind is. And now the class trial has begun. As things progress during each class trial, non-stop debates will occur. During non-stop debates, characters will speak one after another without pause. It is up to you to unearth any lies or contradictions in their statements. You'll have to use the truth bullets you gathered to refute what they say. Any relevant truth bullets you found during the investigation will be loaded into the truth cylinder. Use the LS to aim the reticle and fire with Y. Aim for the gold words displayed in their statements. Those are the weak spots. There's a chance that lies or contradictions are hiding with those weak spots. But remember, you might not be able to refute them all, and you have to use the right truth bullet. Compare everyone's statements to truth bullets you have, and shoot your truth bullet at the proper weak spot. Not that if you run out of time, you will automatically fail, so please be careful. Oh, I almost forgot. The new element. During the trial, you can concentrate to make time slow down. This will also reveal a small red dot with weak spots called the V point. If you hit that with the correct truth bullet, you'll get an awesome V counter. Bullseye, okay. V counters really improve your score and the number of Uno coins you earn, so try that out, okay. Fast forward, controls, okay. Bullet select, okay, sure. During the non-stop debate, you will bring up the controls. Okay, give them a look. Okay, sure. Okay, sure. Let's see.
天海さんの死体が発見されたのはタイムリミットの直前でしたね。
Right.
彼は図書室で殺害されていたよ。
きっと一人で図書室に来た乱太郎を犯人が後からこっちとやったんだよ。
どうして天海は図書室に行ったんだ。
あいつが動く本棚を開けていたのは隠し扉の存在を知ってたからだ。つまり天海が首謀者だったってことだ。
Okay, that's everything.
天海さんの死体が発見されたのはタイムリミットの直前でしたね。
彼は図書室で殺害
Okay, then let's do that. Okay.
天海が首謀者だったってことだ。
What do you mean? Yeah, if he's in the mastermind. What do you mean? The bullet? The bullet is the proof, because how do you throw a bullet to yourself on the back of the head? What do you mean exactly? Okay. Okay, well, let's see.
彼は図書室で殺害されていたよ。
きっと一人で図書室に来た乱太郎を犯人が後からこっちとやったんだよ。
どうして天海は図書室に行ったんだ。
Okay.
隠し扉。天海が首謀者だったってことだ。
What do you mean specifically? Okay. Okay, let's reread what is the evidence specifically. The victim is rented on Mummy, whose ultimate talent is unknown. The victim's body was discovered at the library. The estimated time of death is 9:10 p.m. The victim was subjected to a blunt force trauma to the back of the skull, resulting in cranial fractures and immediate death. No other injuries were detected. Okay, yeah, sure. Sensor that was placed in the moving bookcase, so that in the case somebody moved the bookcases, it would have... Okay. Bloody shot put. Shot put ball. The bloody murder weapon found on the floor of the library. It seems to be the same as the shot put balls in the warehouse. Okay. Okay. His belongings. He had a key to his dorm room and a monopad. He did not have anything that looked like a card key. Okay, let's see. Moving bookcase. One of the bookcases in the far left of the library. After it's been moved, it automatically shuts itself to its original place where a certain amount of time passes. The bookcase moved back to its original place right before Kaeda and Shuichi found the body. Right. Okay, so let's see what is happening. Moving bookcase, renter's belongings.
彼は図書室で殺害されていたよ。
きっと一人で図書室に来た乱太郎を犯人が後からこっちとやったんだよ。
どうして天海は図書室に行ったんだ。
あいつが動く本棚を開けていたのは隠し扉の存在を知ってたからだ。
Oh, okay, renter's belongings. Okay, yeah, that's the thing. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I need to read every evidence so I can get the right thing. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. I'm still warming up to what I'm reading, actually. Also, it's a little bit more difficult to read because the format is a little bit different, but that's my excuse, actually. Yeah, he didn't have a card key specifically. He only had like the keys to his room and his tablet, so it doesn't make sense for him to be the mastermind specifically. Okay.
カードキーを持っているはずだよね。
Right.
犯人が天海君を殺した後でカードキーを持ち去ったのかもしれませんが。
Right.
でも隠し撮りした写真のどこにも天海くんがカードキーを持った姿は写ってなかったよ。
Right.
だからやっぱり彼はカードキーを持っていなかったんだと思う。
And if he had it, somebody stole it. But as it looks like in front of us, he didn't have it.
それに首謀者が死んだならこの殺し合いだって終わってるはずだよね。
That's also a good point from Mackie, actually.
そうね。そう考えると彼が首謀者である可能性は低そうね。
Right.
だったら天海君はどうして隠し扉のことを知っていたのかな。
Right.
図書室を調べた時にたまたま見つけただけじゃない？犀原ちゃんと同じようにさ。
いや、首謀者にこっそり教えてもらったんじゃねえか。
首謀者が隠し扉の存在を教えたって？何のため？
To be the first dead person, basically.
図書室に天海をおびき寄せて殺すためだ。
I mean, yeah, that's a good hypothesis by Ryoma, basically.
それって犯人は首謀者ということですか？
Well, the culprit, maybe that's a possibility, but it would be if somebody's gonna make a killing game, you're not gonna be the first one to show up to kill the person, basically. So, maybe not, honestly.
なるほど。それはありそうだ。
It is plausible, but I don't think that it's something that I would do if I was the host of a killing game specifically.
首謀者なら赤松さんたちの罠のことを知っていても不自然じゃないからね。
Incredibly likely. If anything, they probably knew.
首謀者が私たちの罠のことを？
Yeah, it's kind of obvious that it's like I think if the mastermind didn't have vision of anything that anyone is ever doing, that would be really stupid in particular.
ほら、今回の事件が完全犯罪になっているのは君らの隠しカメラのせいとも言えるでしょう。
Right.
つまり首謀者は君らの罠を知った上でそれを自分の犯行に利用したんじゃないかな。
Right.
首謀者は天海をおびき寄せて殺した後、高松
Oh, actually, wait! I just realized something. Oh yeah, there was this one public speech. Oh damn. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, whatever. That's for another time. Yeah.
完全犯罪を成立させたってわけか。
Right.
私たちの罠を利用して。
Right.
あ、待って。完全犯罪なの？この事件の謎って解けないの？
Yeah, sure.
早くもお手上げじゃな。
ちょっと諦めるのが早いって。犯人が首謀者ってことは分かってるんだし。だったらみんなで協力して首謀者を見つけようよ。そうすれば殺し合いだって終わるんだよ。
でもさ、みんなで協力っていう割には俺らの中に首謀者がいるって疑ってるんだよ。
分かってるよ。ひどいってことくらい。だからこそ終わりにしたいんだよ。こんなひどいことはさ。殺し合いなんてふざけたゲームを終わらせるために私は首謀者をやっつけたいんだよ。そのためだったら私は学級裁判だって利用するよ。
赤松さん。
たとえ残酷な真実が待ってても立ち向かう覚悟はできてるみたいだね。だったら早速その残酷な真実ってやつを叩きつけちゃおうかな。
Right, okay.
実は俺分かっちゃったんだよね。天海ちゃんを殺した犯人がさ。
Okay, Kokichi, let's hear it.
なんだって？
だったりしたら歴代学級裁判の最短記録を塗り替えちゃうよ。
Right.
ちなみに今までの最短記録ってどれくらいなの？そりゃもう早かったで。
風のように早かったよね。
だけどさ、何もあいつ自身が風にならなくてもよかったのにね。この季節になるとついあいつのことを思い出してまうな。
なんであんな死に方しちまったんだ。一人で宇宙艦隊に突撃するなんてかっこよすぎだろ。
うるせえぞ。大事な話の最中だ。黙ってろ。ねえオーマ、犯人が分かったってのはマジなのかよ。
うん、さっきの話だと犯人って赤松ちゃんたちの罠を知ってたんだよね。
犯人がカメラに映ってねえのはそのせいだ。で、誰が犯人なんだよ。
つまり隠しカメラの罠を知ってたやつが犯人なんだよ。
だから誰なんだって。
お前だよ。
俺様か。
Mew. I mean, she's the only one that was aware that the cameras existed as well because she made them. So is the possibility of her like making it? That's a possibility, I guess, but I don't think it's very likely.
だって罠に使われたカメラってイルマちゃんが作ったんでしょ。
Right.
作った本人ならカメラの仕掛けとかも分かってるはずだよね。
Not necessarily because she didn't place the cameras herself. So even if you do have knowledge over the blind spot of the camera, do you have the awareness to know where Kaede and Shuichi put the cameras? I don't think that would happen. I don't think.
カメラに映らないように図書室に忍び込むくらいは朝飯前ってわけか。
Right.
急に何言ってんだよ。俺様はカメラを作っただけで図書室に仕掛けるなんて知らなかったし。
普通そんな妙なカメラを作れって言われたら何に使うか確認すると思うけどな。
ねえ、どうして確認しなかった？どうして？どうして？疲れてたんだって。徹夜だったからついうとうと寝ちゃって。
疑われた途端に反応が過敏だね。やましいことでもあるんじゃない？
やらしいことなんてしてねえよ。新婚の終わりに大きな胸だとは言われるけど。
Can you shut the fuck up? But anyway, continue.
イルマさんって強気な割に打たれ弱いよね。
Right.
待って、見逃してよ。お金が欲しいの？言い訳も完全に悪党っぽくなってきましたよ。
Everyone's starting to suspect Mew, but is that really okay? From here on out, blue-colored weak spots will appear. I've never went to the library, okay? Like, okay, sure. If we call the weak spots, okay. If we call the weak spots you've seen up until now argue points, then these blue-colored weak spots will be called agree points. When shooting at agree points with truth bullets, you will need to flip your way of thinking. Instead of arguing that the other person's testimony contains lies or mistakes, please fire the truth bullets that prove the other person's testimony is correct. When your truth bullets merge with their statement, they will complement each other, resulting in consent. From now on, you must infer whether it's best to argue or agree based on what's being debated. You can also V-consent, so if you're confident, give it a shot. Okay, cool. Okay. Sure. Moving bookcase. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's... For Kiyo's account, during the body discovery announcement, Kiyo, Miu, Kirumi, and Tsumugi were in the dining hall. Miu was in the middle of building a remote... Okay, wait. Was in the middle of building a remote-controlled gadget. Tsumugi had briefly gone to the bathroom and returned to the dining hall shortly after. Okay. Tsumugi had briefly gone to the bathroom and returned to the dining hall shortly after. So Korikiyo's account basically says Miu was in the middle of building a remote-controlled gadget when the announcement happened.
本当に図書室の罠は知らなかったんですか？
だから知らないんだって。そもそも俺様は図書室に行ってねえんだ。
I agree.
それに賛成だよ。私もイルマさんは地下に行ってないと思う。そうだよね、新宮寺君。
Right.
もちろんだよ。だって殺人が起きた時間帯、イルマさんはずっと食堂にいたからね。
Right.
僕は食堂で最後の晩餐をいただいていた時、それを見ているんだ。
ちなみにメニューは孫の誕生日に買ったケーキを一人で食べるおばあちゃん風パスタだよ。
Right.
悲しいエピソードしか浮かばないけど、最終的には孫もおばあちゃんが美味しくいただいたんだね。どころか猟奇的ね。
さすがはお父やんやで。
というわけだから、イルマさんのアリバイは僕が保証するよ。
Right.
このナメクジがもっと早く言えっつうの。
Shut the fuck up, Miu. Okay, anyway.
ああ、赤松は頑張ったぞ。貧相な胸の雑魚キャラの割にはな。
Shut the fuck up.
急にすごい上から目線だね。どこの何がメッシュ？
白金ちゃんってよく自分勝手な例えを使うけど、それってぼっち特有のやつだよね。
あ、ごめん。つい趣味がにじみ出ちゃって。
大間は何を余裕ぶっこいてんだ。元はてめえが俺様を疑い始めたのが悪いんだぞ。てめえは当分黙ってろ。この狂言癖のつるしょだが。
Okay, sure.
ひどいよ。俺は犯人を見つけるために言っただけなのね。そんな言い方はひどいよ。
Right.
よし、これからすっきりした。
Understandable, yeah, sure.
想像しい野郎だぜ。
それとついでに言っておくと、食堂には他に白金さんと東條さんもいたよ。
ではその4人は容疑者から外せそうですね。ずっと一緒にいたな。
No, oops.
ずっと一緒ではないけどね。白金さんは途中でトイレに行ってたからさ。
ああ、やっぱそれ言われちゃうんだ。まあそりゃそうだよね。うん、確かに言ったよ。食堂から一番近いトイレにね。
トイレだって？いや、待ってました。ワクワクするね。
なんでですか？
硬いタイかな、柔らかいタイかな。タイであることが前提なんやな。
でも本当にトイレに行っただけで地下に行ったりはしてないよ。それに怪しまれるほど長い時間でもなかったと思うし。
だけどよ、あんたは超高校級のコスプレイヤーなんだよな。
Yeah, but she cannot dress of other people's clothes because of plot armor, basically.
だったらトイレに行くふりして誰かに変装した可能性もあるんじゃねえのか？
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, sure.
変装？ないない。変装なんてしないって。
うん。私もそれはないと思う。その根拠だって知ってるしね。
Toss box.
そっか。
Yep.
あのね、白金さんがコスプレするのってフィクションの作品だけなんだ。
Yeah, I mean, she has plot armor in this situation. She, for some reason, she gets an allergy whenever she dresses as somebody else. Unrelated question: if you were in Danganronpa, what would your ultimate talent be other than content creation? Ultimate judge, ultimate I don't know actually. Like the ultimate judge, maybe? That's the only thing that comes to mind because like I'm a very I have judgment. And my life revolves around judgment itself, I think. Like if I'm honest with you, if I were to actually be like the most rational aspect of my mind as to how things go and how rationality does take into place when it comes to like aspects of having balance between the worlds of good and evil, I think I kind of manifest that I probably should have been a lawyer of some sort, or I probably should have been a judge if I knew that I had these abilities to mediate something. It's between like the ultimate judge or the ultimate mediator, basically. I think between those two things specifically.
そもそもコスプレって本来はフィクション作品でやるものだからね。
Right.
まあ最近は曖昧になっちゃってるけど、私は本当にそういうのが許せなくって。許せないあまりに生理的に無理なんだよ。リアルの変装をするとキモいブツブツが出ちゃうの。
私もそのキモいブツブツは見たから間違いないよ。
つまり変装の可能性はねえってことか。白金、疑って悪かったな。可能性の一つとして確認しておくべきだと思ってな。
私はいいよ。全然気にしてないから。
白金ちゃんはいいやつだね。イルマちゃんとの器の差が出たよ。
てめえが言うんじゃね
え。とにかく食堂にいた4人のアリバイは間違いなさそうね。
That's probably why I like Monokuma a lot, because he's the judge of everything to some degree, I guess.
4人ともおめでとう。もう帰ってもいいぞ。
帰るのはダメだよね。
ねえ、その4人以外で怪しいのは誰なんだよ。地下に行った名城しごとき豚野郎集団か。
地下に行ったのは誰だっけ？
私と犀原くんが2人で見張りをしていた時に見たのは桃田くん、ゴンタくん、春川さん、茶柱さん、夢野さん、アンジーさんに死んだ天海くんの7人だったよ。
では その7人が容疑者なんですね。
そうなるね。
笑ってる場合じゃなくて、あなたもその中に入っているんですからね。
Excluding Rantaro, one of the 6 people who headed to the basement. Is the mastermind of this killing game? Question mark? The person who's making us endure all these terrible things.
さてと、容疑者も絞られたことだし、本来なら拷問して聞き出すのが手っ取り早いんだけど。
拷問なんてダメですよ。ペコは痛いのが苦手なんです。委託されなくても、あることないこと何でも喋りますから。
あることだけでいいわよ。
地下に行ったメンツの中に犯人がいるとしたら、怪しいのは春川ちゃんじゃない？人とか殺してそうな雰囲気だし。
バカ言わないで。どうせ桃田あたりが犯人なんでしょ。
I mean, Maki seems kind of like a very strict person. And if anything, I would say Angie looks more of a killer than Maki for sure.
何言ってんだよ。俺が犯人なわけねえだろ。
Kaito.
誰だ？誰が犯人なんだよ。
You know what's the funny part is that Danganronpa tends to kill the plainest looking character out of everybody. So that's kind of the thing.
ゴンダも違うよ。紳士は人を傷つけたりしないんだ。
うちだって違うわ。人殺しなんてめんどいことはせんぞ。
アンジーにはアリバイがあるぞ。
Okay, also, does she have like piercing on her stomach, or is it just decoration? It annoys the fuck out of me. Every single time that I look at Angie, I'm like, dude, she's weird. Like, I don't necessarily love her design or her whole aura, actually.
だから誰が犯人なんだって。
ちょっとみんな落ち着いてよ。勝手に喋ってたら話し合いにならないって。
大丈夫だよ、赤松さん。ちゃんとみんなの発言を聞き分ければいいだけだから。君ならできるよね。
Listen to everybody's statements. That's right, I can pick out everyone's voices as they talk over each other.
そもそも私は誘われただけだよ。怪しいのは誘ったやつじゃ。
俺のことじゃねえか。俺は違えって言ってんだろ。
I mean, not necessarily. Part of Angie's weird aura is that she doesn't have a single sprite where she isn't smiling in some way or another. Yeah, that's kind of like the thing. It's like, her whole shtick is weird to me. It's like, yeah, I think she's an artist, right? So it's like, in order for you to be an well, let's just say that if she's an artist, she's the kind of perverted artist. She's kind of like the perverted artist type of person that would like get satisfaction out of a lot of like aspects of art that are not necessarily mainstream. Let's just say it like that, basically.
天賦に罪をなすりつける気ですね。ダンスはすぐになすりつけようとしてくるんですから。
うちは悪い子ではないぞ。産んでくれたママに聞いてもらえばわかる。
本当にアリバイがあるんだって。うちは犯人じゃないよ。
Okay. Oh no, all 3 people are talking at once. Everyone is clamoring to prove their innocence. There is a panic in the courtroom. Oh, that's right. It's time. You will now be thrown into a mass panic debate. During the mass panic okay, what? 3 debates will happen at the same time. Okay, this is a new mechanic. Okay, cool. Focus, shoot bullet, confirm truth bullet, bullet select, aim movement. 3 debates will happen at the same time, but remain calm. It's just like a non-stop debate. You're just hearing triple the opinions. Simple, right? Aim at the conversation you really want to hear and concentrate to listen more carefully. Start through everyone's opinions, find the lie or contradiction, and refute it. You can also use V counter, so if you're confident, give it a shot. Okay, yeah, what the fuck is V counter? I didn't put attention in the first one. Okay, anyway. Sorry to take up your time. Thanks for reading our sports about it. Sure. Mass panic debate start. Okay, wait. Receiver on Shuichi. Okay. Library event. Ranter's the one who left in the middle of it. Ranter was the one who left in the middle of it. Maki's account. Okay, Maki's account. Before the murder, 7 people went to the game room in the basement. Ranter, Maki, Kaito, Tenko, Angie, Himiko, and Gonta. But Gonta had immediately locked himself in the Avery room in the back. Ranter left to the bathroom after Kaito and Tenko went to get Rantaro. Kaito and Tenko went to get Rantaro. The only people left in the game room when the murder happened were these 3, Maki, Angie, and Himiko. So, from Maki's account, Kaito and Tenko are the ones that kind of come into place, basically. Okay, understandable, basically. Yeah, because Kaito and Tenko went to get Rantaro. Also, Gonta locked himself, yeah. Oh, shut up.
ゴンタ、そうなのか？
ゴンタは虫さんの映像を見てたんだ。モノクマとの対決に備えて闘争心を高めようと思って。
イメージトレーニングで想像上の巨大カマキリと
Right, so...
むちゃだ！昆虫と力比べなんて！
I mean, don't judge the guy, let's be honest. Like, I'm the kind of guy that watches anime titties and I'm like, hey, that puts me in a fighting mood. So, if anything, Gonta has his methods, I have my methods. So let's go with it. He said something about honey and not ketchup. I'm kind of hating the translation, but okay. Okay, sure.
それはイメージトレーニングに集中したかったからだけど。
Okay, cool.
もしかしてゴンタが疑われてるの？どうして？
だからあなたにアリバイがないからですって。
じゃあそのアリバイってやつを持ってくればいいんだね。分かった。今から急いで取りに行ってくるよ。どこにあるのか教えて。
この様子だとこいつに反論は難しいかもね。
どうするの？反論できないなら決まっちゃうよ。
極原君、 議論を尽くして真相を明らかにするためにはあなたの反論が必要だわ。
反論って言われても。
君が犯人じゃないって理由を僕らに説明してくれればいいんだよ。
もし本当にあんたが犯人じゃねえなら、このままあんたに投票すれば俺らは全滅なんだぜ。わかるか？あんたは俺らの命も背負ってるんだ。必死にやってくれよ。
わかった。みんなのためにやってみる。
にゃはははコンタファイトだ。ファイトファイトファイト。こけしみてえにグイグイすんな。
This debate is getting loud and heated, but if I focus on everybody's voice, then hopefully we can expose the mastermind. Okay, card. Okay, wait. Card reader dust. The dust Shuichi planted in the hidden rooms card reader. When I okay. Okay. The bloody murder weapon found on the floor of the library. It seems to have the same shot. Okay.
廊下に出られないんだよ。
廊下に出られないなら図書室には行けないよ。
AV ルームの出入り口は一つじゃねえよな。廊下に面した扉もあったはずだぜ。
図書室裏口の正面にある引き戸だね。
あの引き戸から出入りすりゃすぐに図書室に行けるじゃねえか。で、何らかの方法でカメラをかいくぐり天海を殺したんだな。謎は全て解けば帰るかな。
解けてないよ。ゴンタは犯人じゃないって。
Okay.
ゴンタは犯人じゃないんだ。だってゴンタがいた AV ルームからみんながいたゲームルームを通らないと廊下に出られないんだよ。
So I guess I can use the same thing.
AV ルームの出入り口は一つじゃねえよな。廊下に面した扉もあったはずだぜ。図書室裏口の正面に
I guess I can.
それは違うよ。あの引き戸からの出入りは無理だよ。
Yeah, it's not possible basically. Because even Gonta had trouble with it.
俺様が間違ってるっつうのか。いい胸してるじゃねえかこの動物。度胸だよね。度が抜けてるよ。
だって AV ルームの引き戸は立て付けが悪くて少ししか開かなかったんだよ。せいぜい片腕が出る程度だからあそこを通り抜けることなんてできっこないよ。
それと引き戸を無理やりこじ開けた形跡もなかったよ。レールには埃が溜まってたからね。
つまりあの引き戸から出た可能性はゼロってことか。
そっか、珍しいこともあるもんだな。この俺様が間違っちまうなんてよ。
I mean, it was obvious, but whatever.
君が間違えるのは珍しいことじゃないよ。人としても何もかもいろいろと間違えてるしね。
ひどい。
けどあの引き戸が使えないとなるとゴンタ君が図書室に行くには。
俺らがいたゲームルームを通らねえと無理だな。けど俺らはゴンタの姿を見てねえぜ。
ほら、だからゴンタは犯人なんかじゃないんだよ。
いいえ、まだそうとは言い切れないわ。
え？
ごめんなさいね、極原くん。あなたを追い詰めるつもりはないのだけれど、全力で協力すると言って以上は私もその責務を果たさなければならないのよ。
Right.
どういうこと？まだゴンタ君が犯人の可能性があるの？
例えば極原くんが AV ルームにいたまま 図書室の天海君を殺したのだとしたら
AV ルームにいたまま図書室の天海を
How would he hit? How would he kill it from the AV room?
ほうほう、そんな方法があるんだね。
I mean, throwing a bullet from the AV room into the library from the open doors of the corridor?
しかもその方法を使えば AV ルームにいながら天海君を殺せるだけじゃなくて図書室に仕掛けられているカメラにも映らないで済むはずよ。
That's a good point, actually. So, how strong do you have to be to throw a bullet from an open door? No, but the photograph of Rantaro noticing the flash on the camera show that the door to the vault room was open. So I don't think that it would be possible for a bullet to go through, to throw a bullet from the AV room into the library, even if all path was cleared. I don't think that's possible. No.
完璧じゃないですか。で、それはどんな方法なんですか？
まあ美人で天才の俺様にはすでに分かってるけど、他の雑魚どものために説明してやれば。
その説明の前に AV ルームと図書室の位置関係を整理しておこうね。極原くんがいた AV ルームの引き戸は図書室裏口の扉のほぼ正面にあったわよね。
Yeah, but Tojo's argument is gonna get broken in just about a second, so.
この扉の位置関係なら AV ルームにいながら図書室の天海くんを殺すことが可能なはずよ。
わからん。どうやってやるんだ？
そのための準備としてまず図書室の裏口の扉を開けないといけないんだけど。
ちょっと待って。いきなり無理な気がしてきたんだけど。だって AV ルームの引き戸は開かないから廊下には出られないって話だったよね。
But not if the library door was already opened by Rantaro, but here's the thing. If he opened the secret door, the likelihood that he got hit by the bullet itself becomes incredibly low because there's a protection against the back of his head specifically.
廊下に出られないのにどうやって図書室裏口の扉を開けるんですか？
あの引き戸は完全に開かないわけじゃなくて片腕が出る程度開いたはずよ。
Sure.
それなら可能じゃないかしら。 AV ルームにあったあるものを使えばね。
A particular item in the AV room. What else could it be specifically? I don't remember specifically. I don't remember what was part of the investigation. It was long enough. Don't remember. But it was maybe that. The projector screen, maybe.
そうね。AV ルームにあったスクリーンを丸めれば長い棒の代わりになるでしょ。それを使って図書室の扉を開ければいいのね。
That's a little bit of a stretch, though.
開いた扉の隙間から丸めたスクリーンを伸ばし、図書室裏口の引き戸に引っ掛ければ、扉を開けることができるわ。当然スクリーンはそれなりの重量があるでしょうけど、極原君の力があれば問題ないはずよ。
Yeah, but it still leaves the question where the library door was gonna get opened to begin with, basically. So I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
問題ないと思
素直に言っちゃうんだね。
だが図書室の扉を開けるとカメラに映ってしまうんだよ。
いや、カメラを仕掛けたのは中に少し入ったところだから、扉を開けただけでは映らないよ。
犀原君たちが撮った写真もそうだったね。先頭の人物が扉から少し入ったところでシャッターが切られていたよ。
Right.
図書室の扉を開けた方法は分かったけどよ、それが何だってんだ。ゴンタは AV ルームから出られねえんだし、図書室にいる天海を殺しに行けねえじゃねえか。
だから極原君は殺しに行ったわけじゃなくて、 AV ルームにいながら図書室の天海君を殺したのよ。
If Gonta killed Ranter in the library while he wasn't still in the AV room, then
もしかして凶器の砲丸を投げたとか。
待ってください。砲丸を投げるなんてそんな突飛な行動を。ってよく考えたらそれが普通ですね。だって砲丸ですもんね。
I hate Denko. I hate Denko with a passion, actually.
そうよ、凶器の砲丸は本来投げるもの。投げて使ったとしても何も不思議じゃないわ。
Right.
それに人が通れない隙間でも砲丸なら通すことができますね。
しかも天海君の死体と AV ルームの扉はちょうど直線上にあるわ。つまり図書室裏口の扉さえ開ければ砲丸を投げて被害者に当てることは可能なのよ。
けどかなり距離がありそうだぞ。
I mean, Gonta is strong enough, but I don't think. I mean, is he that strong to make that throw with a small gap in between them on the first hit? It's like, okay, we kind of have to think about this objectively. And it's like, okay, let's say, for example, that is what happened. So these conditions have to be met in order for the murder of Rantaro through a bullet from the AV room to happen. Is Gonta has to throw the ball from the AV room through the door, through the small gap between the hallway, the library, and all the way to the back in a perfect shot without any evidence of failure from the AV room. So it was one shot, one kill from the AV room with a small gap. So, and it was a long distance shot. So even if we use anime logic where they can throw things that are very heavy onto people, that still is kind of a stretch, if I'm completely honest with you. I think that it's still a little bit of a stretch. Yeah, that's the thing. But Gonta's strong enough.
極原君にはあの重そうなマンホールでさえ軽々と持ち上げるほどの腕力があるのよ。彼ならこ の距離から砲丸を投げて当てることくらい可能じゃないかしら。
どっかのちりとり専用ロボはともかくゴンタだったらできそうだね。ちりとり専用ロボは僕のことではなさそうですね。僕はちゃんと掃き掃除もしますから。
で、どうなんですかゴンタさん。あの距離でも砲丸を投げられそうなんですか？
それはできると思うけど。
Gonta, you're not supposed to say that, but sure.
また素直に言っちゃうんだね。
Yeah.
いやー、ゴンタすごい。超高校級の砲丸投げ選手でもいけちゃうな。
じゃあ犯人はゴンタで決まりだな。
I don't think. Yeah, I still don't. I still think that it's a little bit of a stretch because there's too many conditions that have to go through in there for that to happen. So no, I don't. I still don't think that it's Gonta.
待ってよ、ゴンタは誰かを傷つけたりしない。だって虫も殺したことないんだよ。
Bro, I set an idea for what Monokuma would do if an ultimate judge was the blackened and YouTube flagged it. Wow, dude. Dude, what the fuck does that even mean? Dude, what the fuck?
本当なんだよ。紳士は嘘をついたりしないんだ。
Wow. Sure.
らしいぜ。どうするんだ。
信じてあげたいけど、その材料がないからね。
Right. I mean, dude, it would be fun though. Actually, I can see myself getting into judge clothing and just being like, "Hey, that's what is happening, dude. Give me my stupid robe. Give me my stupid clothing. Let's get this case course started, shall we, you mother truckers?" If everyone is wrong, we'll never find the mastermind. I can't let that happen. I need to do my best to guide everyone to the right answer.
犯人はゴンタで決定だ。
だから違うんだって。
男子の言い訳は見苦しいですよ。
天海君の死体と AV ルームの扉はちょうど直線上にあったわ。その途中には障害物もない。
図書室裏口の扉を開けさえすれば。
No, there are obstacles.
その途中には障害物もない。
それは違うよ。
That's wrong, specifically. There we go.
AV ルームから砲丸を投げて天海君を殺すなんてやっぱり無理だよ。
Pretty impossible, in my opinion.
だって天海君とゴンタ君との間には障害物があったんだよ。
障害
動く本棚だよ。天海君が殺された時、あの動く本棚は開いていたはずなんだよ。
その証拠だってあるんだよ。彼が殺された時に本棚が開いてたって証拠がね。
The hidden door photos show that the door was open.
この写真を見てよ。これは隠し扉を狙ったカメラで撮った
2枚目の写真なんだけどさ、
天海君が殺される直前の写真ですね。
Right.
ほら、隠し扉の本棚が全開になっているでしょ。で、この本棚はここから自動的に閉まっていって、私たちが図書室に踏み込んだ時に完全に閉まったんだよ。つまりそれより前はこの本棚は開いていたってことだから、 AV ルームから天海君めがけて砲丸を投げても本棚にぶつかっちゃうはずなんだよ。
なるほどな。だったら砲丸を投げたって可能性は消えるな。
となるとゴンタ君にはどうやっても犯行は不可能かもしれないね。
なんだ、犯人じゃないのかよ。もう紛らわしいな。
Right.
ごめん。
ゴンタ君は謝る必要ないと思うよ。
ああ、そうだ。男がそんな簡単に謝ってどうすんだ。
むしろ謝るのは私の方だわ。ごめんなさい、極原君を疑うようなことを言ってしまって。
Dude, told you you're sneaky as fuck. What do you mean?
いいんだよ。だって犯人を見つけるためだもんね。
よくぞ言いました。男子のくせに懐が深いですね。
Okay, Tenko, let's be honest with you. The only reason why you like Gonta being submissive is because you can manipulate. So you can manipulate him into getting onto your side against more degenerate males. So fuck you, Tenko. Fuck you.
ああ、嫌なムードになってきた。
Okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
どこがじゃ、いいムードではないか。
Yeah, sure.
あ、僕は君は。僕は人が楽しそうにしているのが嫌なの。
さすがはお父ちゃん。性格の悪さを恥じることのない性格の悪さだわ。
これまた勉強になるで。ちなみにオイラはメモってると見せかけて馬券の予想してるだけだよ。
圧迫れよ。おでこに乗せてドローンと変身してんだよ。
Right.
なあ、ゴンタの疑いが晴れたのはいいけどよ。喜んでばかりもいられねえぜ。これで容疑者はいなくなっちまったんだ。しかも天海を殺した方法もまだわからねえままだしな。
分かってるのは凶器だけかよ。こんなことで犯人にたどり着けんのか。
凶器が砲丸なのは間違いないんだよね。だったら犯人はどこからその砲丸を持ってきたの？
倉庫にあったものだと思う。あそこには陸上競技用の道具とかも置いてあったからね。
倉庫となると誰でも行けたはずだし、その情報だけでは手がかりにならなそうね。
犀原君、どうかした？
なんでもないよ。
ああ、もうどうするんですか？どうやって犯人を見つけるんですか？
つうか犯人はこそこそ隠れてねえで男らしく自首しやがるってんだ。
まだ男かどうかもわからないよね。
人間かどうかもな。
それは僕のことですか。
とにかく大丈夫だよ。まだここからだから諦めちゃダメだって。
Did I get more water? Oh crap. My throat is like kind of hurting, but I should have gotten some
みん
water.
なでもう一度思い出してみようよ。きっとどこかに首謀者の手がかりがあるはずだよ。
首謀者の手がかりって
例えば天海君が首謀者に騙されて図書室に行かされたなら、天海君と誰かが怪しい会話をしているところを見た人がいるかもしれないでしょ。他には首謀者が私と犀原君の計画を知ってたなら、どうしてそれを知ったのかを考えるのもいいと思うし、とにかく何か首謀者にたどり着くような手がかりをみんなで思い出してみようよ。
でも本当に犯人って首謀者なの？
え、そうだけど、なんで？
Doesn't make a lot of sense, but sure.
だったら犯人が図書室に入った方法はさっき神様が言った方法で間違いないね。
Right.
神様が言った方法じゃと？
あ、そっか。みんなには神様の声が聞こえてないんだっけ？
Is Sanji like kind of crazy or very highly manipulative? I don't know, actually.
じゃあアンジーが代弁してあげる。神様はこう言ったんだよ。
Right.
犯人が首謀者ならカメラに映らないで図書室に入る方法があるって。
Mm-hmm.
マジかよ。そんな方法があんのか。
I mean, if the mastermind was able to do that, how would he? I mean, he knows where the cameras are, so he knows what he has to do in order for him to get into the room itself. Sure, I guess.
マジでゲスだって。
随分と小物衆のする口調の神様ですね。
Yeah, a little bit. I wait for the culprit to enter the library without getting caught by cameras. Is that really possible?
主は言いました。神様に代わってアンジーが説明してあげるべきだと。
Right.
いやー、これが神様のみぞ知る事件の真相だぞ。
Mike is okay. Those Shuichi planted in the hidden doors carrot reader. Before the murder, okay, wait.
図書室に隠れてたんだよ。楓と秀一がカメラを仕掛ける前からね。
図書室のどこに隠れていたんですか？
隠し扉の中だよ。
犯人は隠し扉の中で待ち伏せしてたってのか。
だとすると怪しいのは事件当時に一人で行動していた人物だ。
食堂にも地下にも行ってないのか。
大間君とキーボ君と星君だよ。
やっぱり犯人は男子でしたか。
にゃはー、神と名推理でしょ。
I never had to debate a god before. I can tell there's a contradiction, but I don't. And just know what the fuck is this phrasing?
犯人はずっと図書室に隠れてたんだよ。楓と秀一がカメラを仕掛ける前からね。
図書室のどこに隠れていたんですか？
隠し扉の中だよ。
犯人は隠し扉の中で待ち伏せしてたってのか。
だとすると怪しいのは事件当時に一人で行動していた人物だ。
食堂にも地下にも行ってないの。
大間君とキーボ君と星君だよね。
やっぱり犯人は男子でしたか。
にゃっ。
Okay, classroom vent.
神と名推理でしょ。秀一がからね。
どこに隠れていたんですか？
扉の中だ。
扉の中で待ち伏せしてたってのか。
だとすると怪しいのは事件当時に一人で行動していた人物。
こにも来たの。
アマ君とキーボ君と星君だ。
やっぱり犯人はダウスでしたか。にゃー、神った名推理で。
Wait.
じゃあ犯人はずっと図書室に隠れてたんだよ。楓と秀一がカメラを仕掛けてる前からね。
ここに隠れて
扉の中だよ。
Inside the hidden door.
だとする。
The dust Shuichi planted in the hidden door's card reader. When it was checked during the investigation, the dust was left exactly the way it was originally. Okay, no, so. Okay, let's go with the card reader. No. No, because the card reader was intact.
待って、アンジーさん。隠し扉の中に隠れるのは不可能だと思う。
No, because if the investigation, after investigation happened, and the Shuichi's dust was still implanted, and it didn't move, it means that the culprit could have never gone into the locked room as a consequence, basically.
神様がそう言ってるのに。
実は僕はあの隠し扉にちょっとした罠を仕掛けていたんだ。
Yeah, it was. Shuichi confirmed that, basically. Huh? The dust is still there. It looks like the card reader wasn't used. That means the mastermind didn't hide here. Yeah, basically.
首謀者が隠し扉に入ったかを確認するために僕はカードリーダーに埃を仕掛けておいたんだ。
Right.
誰かが隠し扉の中に入るためにカードキーを通したらその埃は落ちているはずなんだけど。
Or there would have been some prints or something to like notify of that basically.
でもね、捜査の時にそれを確認したら埃は落ちてなかったんだよ。つまりあの隠し扉には誰も入ってないってことだから中で待ち伏せしてたとは考えられないよ。
運外昇天の極みだ。まだまだだな。
何が？
カメラが仕掛けられる前から犯人が図書室に隠れていた可能性はまだ残ってるぜ。あんたの推理は甘いんだよ。それじゃあ何の証明にもなってねえぞ。
How exactly? It seems you've been contradicted. When this sort of thing happens, you'll go into a one-on-one debate called a rebuttal showdown. What's a rebuttal showdown? For now, let's explain the controls. In this mode, you counter the other person's claim and argue against it. Move to your truth blade with the LS oh, okay. So it's the same as Danganronpa 2. Perform a regular cut in the direction the blade is pointing by pressing A. Cut with the truth blade by pressing Y. Or sorry, I forgot to tell you. In this mode, truth bullets will be called truth blades. Use regular cuts to your opponent's words, but when a weak spot appears, slash it with a truth blade strike. Of course, if you don't have the correct truth blade, you will not be able to cut an opponent's remark. What's neat is, if you cut through multiple words at once, you get a time bonus. 2 at once gets you 2 seconds. 3 is 3. The more you cut, the better. Okay. Watch the position of your opponent's claim closely and slice as many as you can. By doing that, you can skew the debate's mood to your advantage. When the mood is at the argument is in your favor, the debate will progress. On the other hand, if you ignore the other person's remarks, it will skew towards their advantage, and then you'll have to deal with loss of progress. If you and your opponent's arguments are even, a blade lock will occur. When that happens, you have to mash A as fast as you can to push them off. Isn't slicing and dicing opinions with a crude sword the bee's knees? Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, American translator, you gotta calm the fuck down. What? Not really? Well, you shouldn't knock it before you try it. Okay, yeah, sure. You can also be agree if you blah 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 blah. Okay, sure. Thanks for your time. Sure. Okay.
隠し扉の中が無理だとしても図書室には隠れ場所がいくらでもあった。例えば本の山の中だ。犯人はカメラが仕掛けられる前からその中に潜んでたんじゃねえのか。そして天海を殺した後で逃げたのか。
でも殺して逃げるにしたって逃げる姿がカメラに映っちゃうよね。
だったら天海を殺した後でまた図書室に隠れればいい。そして全員が死体に注目している中、自分もたった今駆けつけたかのようにその場で合流すればいいだけだ。だったら天海を殺した後でまた図書室に隠れればいい。そして全員が死体に注目している中、自分もたった今駆けつけたかのようにその場で合流すればいいだけだ。
Rejoin everyone. Okay, let's. Okay, I have to read everything. Right after killing Ranzaro. Then, once everyone gathered around the body, he's gonna act. Rejoin everyone. Okay, so let's see the arguments that we have. The first photo of Kaede, Shuichi, Kaito, and Tenko running shortly after the body was discovered. The second photo is a shot of Maki, Anju, Kiniko, and Gonza running after Tenko's scream. The third photo is a shot of Kibo, Ryoma, Kyo, Miu, Tsumugi, Kiruma, and Kokichi running in after they heard the body discovery announcement. The fourth photo is a shot of Shuichi removing the camera of the investigation.
また図書室に隠れればいい。そして全員が死体に注目している中、自分もたった今駆けつけたかのようにその場で合流すればいいだけだ。
その言葉切っちゃうよ。
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We kind of have to go through the photos themselves.
犯人が図書室で私たちに合流した？それは考えられないよ。
Yeah, because like, sure, like, how is it possible if everybody had an alibi at that point?
理由を聞こうじゃねえか。
ほら、図書室の正面扉に仕掛けたカメラだよ。あの3枚の写真を見てもらえばわかるけど、これは私と犀原君と地下にいた桃田君と茶柱さんが駆けつけたところ。
Right.
こっちのは地下にいた残りの4人が茶柱さんの悲鳴を聞いて駆けつけてきたところ。最後の写真は死体発見アナウンスを聞いた残りのみんなが駆けつけてきたところね。全員の駆けつけてきたところがしっかりカメラに撮影されてるんだよね。だから誰かが図書室の中にずっと隠れてたって推理は通らないんだよ。
True, but at the same time, there was a chance that the killer was inside of a vent and he just came out. He or she just came out after everybody started like joining. But I think Kaede put books around the vent, and I think there was evidence that there was no movement of the vent itself. Maybe.
確かにどいつもこいつも図書室の外から駆けつけているみてえだな。どうやらまだまだなのはあんたじゃなくて俺の方だったらしい。
Right.
うんうん、いいんだよ。こうやって可能性を潰して真相に近づく。
Yeah, well, I kind of have to like analyze it from certain angles.
サイハラ君。うん、そうだね。
Is Shuichi okay? He's been really quiet. Is he worried about something?
やはり問題となるのは犯人がどのように図書室に出入りしたのかということね。
まずはその問題を片付けましょう。そうしないと僕らは先には進めません。でも不思議だよね。仕掛けたカメラに姿を残さず天海君を殺すなんてさ。
Dude, it's gonna be like, dude, it's gonna be Shuichi, isn't it? It's like, technically speaking, maybe the cameras didn't miss anybody who entered the library. It's just that it caught Shuichi himself, basically. Like, maybe that's the thing, really. That's kind of the thing.
だがうちの魔法ではないぞ。うちの魔法では半透明が限度じゃからな。上半身だけで精一杯じゃ。
ああ、そういう意味の半透明なんだね。
でも図書室の2つの扉はどっちにも隠しカメラがあったはずだし。
図書室にあった通気口はあそこから入ったんじゃないの？
だけどあの通気ダクトがつながってる教室は私と犀原くんが見張りに使ってたんだよ。
では赤松たちの隙をついたんじゃな。犯人が透明人間になって。
夢野さんは透明人間に対する並々ならぬこだわりがあるみたいですね。
Tenko, shut the fuck up, dude.
それも無理だと思う。犯人が通気口から図書室に忍び込んだ可能性はないよ。
That's right. We have evidence that proves that that would have been impossible. I think it's this one, right?
そっか。あのね、図書室に隠しカメラを仕掛けた時、私は念のために通気口の前に本を積んでおいたんだ。
Yeah, so nothing changed after that.
もし誰かがあそこから出入りしてたら、本は崩れてたりしてるはずだけど。
Right.
捜査の時に確認してみたら、本はちゃんと積まれたままだったんだよ。
通気口から出るときに本をどかしてその後で戻したんじゃねえのか？
Right, so
その作業を狭い本棚の上でするのはさすがに難しいんじゃないかしら。
通気口も無理でどっちの扉も無理で、じゃあ犯人はどこから図書室に出入りしたの？神隠しならぬ神現れ。
Angie, shut the fuck up as well.
他に出入りできるところはもうなさそうだけど。
うわー、ひらめいちまったぞ。犯人は図書室の扉から出入りしたんじゃねえか？
今までの話を聞いていましたか？扉から入ったら写真に写ってしまうんですよ。
Which is not wrong if because we kind of have to think about who planted the cameras themselves. Shuichi himself said that the flashes out of the camera were disabled and they were enabled to some degree as well. So we kind of have to consider too who handled the cameras. It was Kaede and Shuichi. Shuichi could have potentially tested the camera. Here's the premise. Here is the exact premise that I think that could have happened. Shuichi himself placed the cameras where they were supposed to be, disabled the camera that was supposed to take a photo of him, activated the camera himself once he got in, the camera of the photo of him being placed on the register, and then after that he saw if the camera worked, but it didn't look like he entered. So it makes me think that Shuichi is the culprit because he's the only one that knows how the cameras were placed because he placed them. Kaede being the other one, but Kaede was inside of the classroom upstairs. So my assumption is that the killer is going to be Shuichi, actually.
んなもんカメラのインターバルを狙えばカメラに映らねえで出入りできんだろうが。
Yeah.
インターバル
Interval?
何それ。
What is that?
つまり犯人はカメラが仕掛けられてることも知ってたし、カメラのインターバルのことも知ってたんだ。
Right.
で、そのインターバルの間に図書室に忍び込んだんだ。そうすりゃカメラに映らねえで済むからな。さすがは美人すぎる俺様の名推理だぜ。ねえ、イルマさん、そのインターバルって何？
Okay, let's explain. Okay, Miu, please explain it.
ああ？てめえは今さら何言ってやがんだ。知っての通り、あのカメラは一度シャッターが降りると次に撮影できるようになるまで30秒かかっちまうんだ。
After the shutter snaps, the camera can take a new photo for 30 seconds. Oh! So it kind of like, it reinforces the idea that Shuichi disabled the camera when he left. When he got back in the room, he re-enabled the camera, took a photo of it, who took photos of the thing, and then he had 30 seconds to get outside of the room with the photos still being activated. That's my assumption of why Shuichi is actually the killer, because he's the only one that was aware of the plan to begin with, along with Kaede and Miu to some degree, basically.
もともとは手動のフィルムを自動で巻き上げるように改造したせいなんだけどな。初耳だよ。そういう大事なことはもっと早く言って。なんだよ。改造カメラを渡すときに言ったっつうの。そこの帽子とかをかぶった童貞にな。
Miu just called Shuichi a beta boy toy. I mean, damn. Okay.
犀原くん？
あ、ごめん。言い忘れてたみたいだ。
Right.
言い忘れてた？
隠し撮りの計画には支障がないと思ったし、まさかこんなことになるとは思ってもなかったから。
Here's the thing, though. Let's say that Shuichi was suspicious of Kaede being a killer in the process, so he didn't tell Kaede in order for him to get the upper hand if she became the killer at some point, which is fair enough. But on the other hand, we have to consider that makes Shuichi the only one aware of how the cameras work in particular, which makes him the most suspicious person in the room, basically.
それで言い忘れちゃったみたいだ。本当にごめん。
言い忘れたなんて 空虚な言い訳をするね。
Right.
嘘くさい。
そんなことないよ。きっと本当に忘れただけなんだって。あの時はバタバタしてたから、それで説明するのを忘れちゃったんだよね。
And the thing is, Kaede and Shuichi have been flirting, so the possibilities of Shuichi getting more positive influence from Kaede increase by just sheer bonding sessions to begin with. So, even with more reason to believe that Kaede herself has been looped into kind of like a tight spot in this particular instance.
まあ恋かミスかは後回しだ。それよりカメラのインターバルの話をしようぜ。
イルマさん、インターバルは30秒と言ったわね。
ああ、ザリガニ並みの知能しかねえおめえらのためにもう一度説明しておいてやるとだな。イカマツと臭い原が図書室に仕掛けた3台のカメラはセンサーが感知してシャッターが降りた後、次に撮影できるようになるまで30秒かかっちまうんだ。フィルムを自動で巻き上げねえといけねえからな。
ではその30秒間ならカメラに映らずに図書室に入れるんですね。
30秒もあるなら図書室に入るどころか天海君を殺して逃げることも可能かもしれないわよ。
はい、急げば可能かもしれません。
なるなる、じゃあ間違いないね。犯人はカメラのインターバルを利用したんだよ。
となると犯人はそのインターバルのことを知ってたイルマちゃんで決まりだね。
バカ言ってんじゃねえ。俺様には食堂にいたってアリバイがあったろ。
ああ、そういえばそうだったね。じゃあ他にインターバルを知ってたのって誰だったっけ。
サイハラだけだよ。
Saihara. Yeah. Yeah, Chuchi is the only one that seems suspicious out of everything. Because he's the only one that has technical knowledge about how the cameras work.
それなら図書室で天海君を殺した犯人も犀原君ということになるのかね。
犀原君か。
おい、どうなんだよ犀原。
違うよね。君はそんなことをしたりしないよね。
黙ってないで何か言ったら沈黙は停滞を生むだけだよ。
はっきりしてください。あなたが天海さんを殺した犯人なんですか。ねえ、犀原君、本当にどうしたの。
まさか黙秘なんて言わねえな。
Okay, cool.
つまらなくない。
No way, Shuichi can't be the culprit. That's definitely wrong. There's no way. I refuse to believe Shuichi is the culprit. That's definitely not possible. Intermission. Okay, damn. Okay, so we're in the middle of the case. Do you want to save? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so unfortunately today I had some visits, but now I got some money, actually. So I can actually like what's it called? Like repair my setup, because here's the thing. My headphones, the headphones that I have, I've been using my headphones that have been like my backup I've been using my backup headphones for like at least a couple of months now, and my original headphones broke down from usage. So it kind of makes me have some like try to order some studio headphones. So it's like I'm probably gonna have to use the money that I just got to get like new headphones and a new setup, and potentially a new game in particular that I've been observing a little bit. But it's kind of like I kind of have to observe what the game really is about, because like here's the thing, I kind of have to consider if I buy the like the Legacy of Kain like continuation, or if I do specifically the like the 100 line game, which I do want to play at some point, to be honest with you. So that's kind of the things in specific. Like I low-key do want to make a little bit of a playthrough of 100 line, in my personal opinion, because like I watched a little bit of the gameplay of it, and it was kind of interesting. Like it's the kind of game that I would want to play myself, basically, because it's like Fire Emblem, but with a Danganronpa stamp attached to it. And it's like, to me in particular, that's not bad actually. that kind of tickles me fancy a little bit. So that's kind of the thing, really. But yeah, that's kind of like I'll consider buying like my headphones, and maybe if I have enough money to get the 100 line to make a let's play out of it, even although that I'm probably not gonna be making a full let's play of it, because like there's so many endings. Or option number 2, I buy the Danganronpa spin-offs just to have fun with it, with like Ultra Despair Girls. Like maybe I do buy those kind of thing. Like maybe I do, which is kind of like an interesting thing that I could do specifically. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's a little bit unfortunate that that today's stream got a little bit cut off, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. So yeah, we can continue on Saturday with the judgment itself, and yeah, we can wrap it up on Saturday. I think I've been extending the content a little bit, and it's not because I want to, but at the same time, it's also because I'm really enjoying Danganronpa 3. Low key, I'm enjoying this Let's Play way more than the other ones, because like the other ones, there was definitely like some kind of like, whenever I was making the other ones, I had a little bit of I wasn't in the most calm of situations, basically, which made my content a little bit more stressful. But at the same time, now that I'm not so stressed, I guess I can have fun with this one and just be like, hey, I do voiceovers, I make jokes about it, and I'm just like chilling about it, which again, it makes me enjoy the game way more. And it's like I enjoyed the game before, but now I'm really enjoying the game in particular. So that's kind of the thing. So yeah, Saturday we continue the Danganronpa. We continue the Let's Play. We can continue with that. I mean Saturday, yeah, specifically. So tomorrow, here's the thing about the Spanish channel in particular, and it's like I'm considering like a Spanish stream tomorrow of like whatever. And yeah, that's kind of like the thing. Like when I look at like the world in particular, sometimes I objectively think to myself that it's like, dude, it's like the biggest problem as to why the Spanish community doesn't get like good content is because they just don't make good content. It's like, I'm not gonna like the Mexican Hispanic like Spanish speaking community doesn't exist to some degree, and it kind of makes me think that it's just like, yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense for me to kind of try to make something out of it. Sometimes I kind of think to myself, is there a reason why there's not enough Mexican like people on YouTube, or is it just that the algorithm doesn't show me them because I wouldn't like them to some degree? And it's like sometimes it kind of does like make me think in my head that it's like it's either one or the other. And if I have to make content that is like Mexican focused to some degree of the otaku community, then it kind of makes sense to kind of like try kind of makes sense to give it a go a little bit and try to see what we can do about that in particular. So that's kind of the thing, really, when it comes to that. So yeah, there's that possibility, and it doesn't necessarily make me like unhappy now. Before it did make me a little bit unhappy because like I kind of like had a little bit of a perspective of reference where if I don't see something in the public, I assume that it's not profitable. And if it's not profitable, therefore there's no point of even attempting it. But now that I have a little bit of a more vision over how the world really works in particular, it kind of makes me think that it makes way more sense to try to make something in Spanish, because if nobody has done it, or if there's not enough good value when it comes to like Spanish speaking VTubers, then it just means that as a consequence, I kind of have to step up, because it means that there's no market along with it, or beyond what the common belief of like there wouldn't be enough support for it is there for. So it's like, so it kind of makes me think a little bit that it's just like, yeah, well, in the end, what do I care about? The otaku community. Okay, so the otaku community is the only thing that I care about. Therefore, I kind of have to push forward within that mentality on every front in order for me to get a satisfying look and everything. Because if I do so, the possibilities of me to keep pushing increase on that area instead of just stucking my head on things that don't really make sense. So that do not benefit me or my mental health as well. So it's like, yeah, to some degree, it makes kind of like a lot of sense to kind of like have that kind of angle. I was like, here's the thing as well, that is like the internet kind of evolved a lot during 2016 that it kind of makes me think that that is like the causality of actions of how the internet shifted after a specific period of time and the actions that followed makes me think that there's some level of understanding as to why things happen, why insanity happened as a consequence. Because we're now speaking about injustice that has been put onto onto people, and onto consenting parties into no longer being consenting parties to some level. Basically, it's like you can play by the rule book as much as you want, but you also have to consider the empathetical statement and the emotional statement of a pillar within society itself, and the common judgment that it involves to get the right person in the right place on the right time and to maintain that position so that the society that they belong to doesn't collapse specifically. It's like when you look at it from that perspective, sometimes that's kind of like when it comes to like the judgment of like humanity in particular. It's like if you are to have good judgment onto humanity, you cannot always see the thing that has been happening and say that it is right or wrong when people have already consented to it to some degree. And if people have consented it to some degree, there's some level of accountability to do that. And the reasons why some people do not get held accountable is because the economy doesn't support the accountability to do so. So the judge in its own way and the justice in its own way, sometimes it fails the people that have already consented to some agreement. And in its own way, that makes the rules a tool for destruction and unethical behavior to begin with. So that's kind of like the thing when it comes to like the aspect of human life that we kind of like surround ourselves with, because like when you see consenting parties and the consenting party that keeps consenting and they still get put into a terrible situation, then we start seeing the aspect of like some areas of American society where they also consented into terrible terms to be exploited and shove other people as an excuse as the reason why things are terrible, when in reality the employer is the one that has the cards in the end. You can make as many excuses as possible as to why you don't have good working conditions, and make somebody else as the excuse as to why you don't have good enough working conditions. But at the same time, you kind of have to look at it that it's in the cards of your employer to give you a good working condition. It's not the environment that is putting you in a bad place. It is the one who is employing you to begin with. So once you look at it from that perspective, really, it's like, just because there's some condition that is making things theoretically worse isn't necessarily the direct change in which your condition becomes worse. Not necessarily. It's the excuse that gets used in order for you to get poor conditions. But at the end of the day, the employer is the one that has the most cards to play that kind of game in particular. And in the end of the day, even if things got cleaned up, the reasons why, the possibilities that things go in your favor aren't 100% once things get cleaned up, because your employer can just make up another excuse as to why they decide to not give you benefits to begin with. So that's kind of like the thing. That's kind of like the mentality that I want to end this stream on. That it's just because somebody puts something as an excuse doesn't necessarily mean that that's the causality of a tree of actions that followed. It can be an emotional response that has made it as such, and they can decide to continue being complacent due to the convenience of saying that they can and they have a justifiable excuse to make your life worse in particular. So once that is set in stone, we kind of have to argue as to what is the right thing to do, because like the technocratic world that we live in has decided to some degree that some people aren't worthy of having more benefits than the rest of the world. And it's not always necessarily because of the environment that has been put into place. It is the excuse has been set, but the origin of everything isn't always the main aspect that makes life a terrible place in the modern world, basically. It's a tree of decisions. It's a tree of emotions. It's a tree of strategic opinions. It's a key of strategic excuses. It's a key of emotional manipulation. And it's a key of a narcissistic aura that makes other people feel guilty that they're not agreeing with them 100% in order for them to get the things that they want. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you really did, I really appreciate you. I'll see you next Saturday. Have a good one.